have From Region to Region Achieving Zero Downtime Migration on AWS by Gireesh, Kumar and Joice Joseph. Both are from Mindcurv, part of Accenture Songs.
Cool. So we welcome you all to the session. And first, let's introduce ourselves. I think you had a bit long introduction from here. I'm not sure I know how many of you hear that well. But myself is Gireesh. I'm working as a senior cloud house lead at Mindcurv, now part of Accenture Song. And
yeah, myself Joice Joseph. I'm working as an infrastructure developer in Mindcurv as part of Accenture. Yeah. And we welcome you all to this session, which is about how we migrated customer solutions between AWS regions with zero downtime. It's an inside story. It's related to a use case that we had with one of our customers.
yes, like Joyce mentioned, we are not going to technically deep dive into how exactly we have done this migration, but instead we will be giving you the details of the journey, know how we approach this, and what are the challenges we faced, and how we overcome those. And in case if you want to know more detail about the technical aspect of this, you guys know there's a crowded booth out there. Feel free to visit us over there, only after lunch. Okay. Cool. So with that, let's start. I will walk you through the agenda for today. So we will be giving you an overview of the infra that we had prior to the migration, and we will also let you go through the problems that we faced and why we wanted to migrate from a region to another region. And then we will be walking you through the challenges that we discovered along the journey, and we'll be also talking about the migration approach that we finally took. And we'll be walking you through the new architecture and the connection flow of the network. And we'll be also talking about how we handle the challenges and that ensured a zero downtime to the actual services for the end users. And then finally what we have achieved through the migration, and we'll be opening for the Q&A. But before we talking about the Q&A, I will again remind you that the lunch is out there. So cool. So with that, let's start with the overview of the infra that prior to the migration.
Yeah. So this was our initial infrastructure where we have an AWS, not single AWS, multiple AWS account for each environment, where we have some services that is using, and we have an on-premise data center where we have multiple servers running, such as Apache, Nginx, so some servers, some database server, and an OpenShift cluster, which altogether helps to run some microservices. It's basically an e-commerce customer, so this all on-premise components helps the customer to run their e-commerce services. And they have the services running in AWS that is extensively using to integrate with multiple vendors for order management, delivery, and payment, so and so. And as you can see, the on-premise data center is in Spain, and the AWS region, it's in Ireland. So in order to make the connectivity in between two, we were using a site-to-site VPN. Yes, that's all.
Yes. So I hope now you got a quick view on what was the infra prior to the migration, and now let's take a look on what are the triggers that led to a migration from region to region. So you have already seen the base location where the customer is out from the Barcelona, Spain, and the resources were provisioned in the Ireland region initially. So let's walk you through the problems and requirements. So the customer want to migrate, customer need to run their solution from the AWS Madrid region, because the AWS sales team contacted them, and they offered better discounts. That the whole discount list is not disclosed to us, but still they wanted to run from there, and they offered a free credits for doing this migration. If they are doing that, they wanted to duplicate the resources, so they won't charge you during that tenure. So only once the things are go live, and that is confirmed by AWS, once the already things are deleted, till the time they have offered few credits, free credits for them, and they wanted to migrate the whole solution to the Madrid. That is one thing. And the other thing, like Joyce mentioned, the AWS infrastructure we normally use for integrating with a lot of third parties. So especially for the payment, their order management, and the other business intelligence tools like Salesforce and all. So especially related to payment, as you can see, the both the AWS and the on-prem infra is connected through an VPN tunnel, and the internet health is severely affecting this connection. So it is leading to a bit latency there, I won't say it is 10 millisecond latency, but beyond around 5 seconds something. Sometimes it is hitting those thresholds. So whenever it is getting into a higher latency, the end user is experiencing some issues related to, especially related to payment. So we also won't like when the payment is getting timed out, or when a payment is taking too much time. We normally won't like. So that is a bad user experience. So we wanted to address that. That is an underlying issue with the existing infra. And the other thing is, as an organization, we also adapt to the new ways of working. So the recent change that we did in the organization level, whatever the accounts that we manage, it should be mapped to the AWS control tower. So we wanted to adhere to the ways of working as well for the Mindcurv group. And when customer approached us with their requirement, they wanted to migrate from AWS Ireland to AWS Madrid. We clubbed all these together and took this as a chance to improve the overall infra, improve the, reduce the latency, and incorporate Mindcurv best practices. So this is a chance for us to incorporate all those requirements, and this needed to redesign the entire architecture. Cool. So I hope now you guys got a clear picture on what was the problems and the requirements and why we wanted to migrate from a region to region. So now let us walk you through the initial actions that we have taken for this migration.
Yeah. In the previous slide, you saw what are the challenges we have. So then we have take our initial actions to solve those things. And first of all, the thing was ensuring the service availability in the new region, which is Spain. So as you know, all AWS regions are not the same in terms of service they offer or the features in each service. Newer regions comes with some features that won't be there in the existing, or vice versa. So first of all, what we have done is like a service to service comparison. As I saw in the initial diagram, our previous AWS infra was in AWS Ireland. So we have checked those services which we are already using out there is also available or not in Spain. Yeah, luckily we are
Joice,
fine with that.
I sorry to interrupt. I forgot to mention the initial side. Why the resources got initially provisioned in the Ireland instead of Madrid?
Okay, that's an old story. While we are creating the infra in years back, and at that point of time, only AWS Ireland was available near to our on-premise data center. So we have directly went with AWS Ireland and provisioned our services and went live.
Okay, cool. So what was our approaches after we confirmed the services were available over Madrid? What was our next steps?
Once we have confirmed all the services are available, then our next action was to brainstorming approach to reduce the impact to the live users or the developers who are, or to avoid their delays in terms of development, deployment and all. So we have done that one, and also we have created a proper migration plan and effort estimations, so that we can plan everything in advance, and also done a risk and dependency analysis as well.
Yes. So just before we have seen the software development lifecycle circle that Mahima showed us, and there the planning, that is the initial phase. So here also the planning is so critical whenever we are doing a project or whenever we are doing something in the IT infrastructure. So the planning is very much important. How best you plan, how much time you are investing in your planning, that much easy it will be on your delivering the project. So with that, we are so fortunate about we were able to forecast a lot of challenges in our initial planning phase itself, and that gave us some leverages in tackling those challenges. So how to tackle that? We got time for actual planning, how to migrate one solution to another. And let's focus, just go through the challenges that we have forecasted. We have not listed the entire challenges that we had during this migration, but these were the main challenges or pain areas we forecasted how this is going to happen. So like we mentioned, the AWS infrastructure is used to integrate the order management system, the payments, the Salesforce and other business intelligence tools and their loyalty features and everything. So all these are not handled by a single vendor. So there are different vendors, different third parties. So handling or touching a live service with a lot of vendors, that is not an easy task. So you need to well coordinate with these vendors. You need to make aware them that we are going to make such changes in our API endpoints and all. So they need to adapt to those changes. So it is never going to be an easy thing for coordinating with the multiple third parties vendors like this. So that is the first challenge that we forecasted, how we will be handling these many vendors over there. So every vendor we need to honor, and every vendor we need to consider their time, and every vendor or every third parties out there, they are not going to adapt the change at the same speed. So someone will be able to adapt the changes quickly. Okay, we will be saying that tomorrow, okay, you need to use this API endpoint to connect to us. So they will be able to quickly do that. But some, it will take time for them to make a change in their infrastructure. So we wanted to consider them all, and like, if we are delaying or if you are executing a maintenance in a maintenance schedule, let's say, okay, next week, Monday, from 6 a.m. to 7 a.m. or 6 a.m. to 8 a.m., you have to make these changes. If one third party failed to execute the change, or if they are unable to do that change, then the end user is going to get an impact after the maintenance period, right? So we wanted to avoid that. And the other thing is ensuring a zero impact to the software development lifecycle. So I cannot say that, okay, now we are going for a major change, that we are migrating all the services from one region to another region, and I'm making the environment freeze. You're not supposed to deploy new features. If there are bugs in production, you need to keep run with that bug till we are completing the migration. So that, no one, even the product owners or the customer, they won't accept it. So we wanted to make the entire transition from the region to region more transparent to the developers as well, so that we need to ensure that it is not impacting the software development life cycles. Cool. So with that, let's take a look on the approach that we finally took for this migration.
Yes. So as part of this migration, we have done multiple interactions with the customer in order to know what is their future plans, what are the new changes they wanted to be implemented, and also their plans with cloud, especially with AWS cloud and all. And also, you have noticed that we had a site-to-site VPN in between our on-premise data center and AWS Ireland region. So we have also, that of course gives some latency, because there are some distance in between these two. So we wanted to ensure to reduce the latency over there. And we are also plan to introduce AWS Control Tower, which will help the customer to easily manage their multiple AWS accounts for each environment, and also manage the users over there and all. And in order to make all these changes, definitely architecture redesign was needed. So we plan to redesign the architecture, and that needs to ensure that it not crossing their budget, or it's not giving a huge expense to them.
Yes. So we have seen how to reduce the cost in the previous things. So we have to explore on the cost side as well, and ensure that the customer pocket is not teared when we are making an infrastructural changes. So along with this, while continuing the discussion of migration approach, so we have done a detailed planning on migration of each services. So like, you can reach to a same goal with a different ways. So there are always different paths to achieve a same goal. So like, if there are different ways to migrate the S3 from one region to another, one account to another, there are different ways to migrate each services from AWS to the other AWS account or another region. There are several ways to do the same thing. So what we have done a detailed planning on how, what are the available options out there, and what is the best approach that matches our use case. And so we have done that. And then we also plan to, as we mentioned, there is a customer, there is a vendors everywhere. So we prepared a cutover planning and communicated that with all the vendors involved. So this is the estimated plan for this. And the customers and vendors are well aware about there is a change going to happen, so they can be prepared. And then before go live, we decided to perform an operational readiness test. What does it mean? We need to ensure that as we are planning to do a cutover, so we need to ensure that the entire network connections, entire integration, so there will be SQS will be there listening, and now there will be event bridges, and based on that, we will be triggering Lambda. So there a whole bunch of workflow will be there. So we wanted to test that with the mock data. And only after ORT completion, we will be open for go live. So that was our approach on the migration. So now let's take a look. So I think we have set the floor, and now you got a context on why we wanted to migrate and what are the approaches we decided. Now just unfold the journey. So when taking a look back, I think I don't need to look back. Screen is there in front too. So the main thing when we are actually seeing the initial days of our planning, we are so fortunate to have a strict infrastructure as a code policies and standards that we follow. So this ensure 100% infrastructure as a code. What does it mean? There is no drift between what is there in code and what is there provision in the AWS infra. So whatever is in code, only those are available in our AWS infra. So how we achieved this? Any of us don't have access to the make modification or add new resources via the console. Whatever things we do, it has to go through the code. No one got the privilege to do things via console. And along with security, so normally in security, we normally say zero trust policy. So a same zero trust policy we applied on the infrastructure as a code standards as well. And this ensured, every change, even if it is a very minor change, that has to be go through a prior review, that has to be approved, that has to be merged, and the pipeline has to be executed. And then finally, the things will be getting deployed to the infra. So we do have that strict policy there, and this saved a lot of time for us in this project, particularly in this project. So we were able to quickly provision whatever is there. We were able to quickly provision it over there. And this saved a lot of engineer time, engineer efficiency and everything. And I should say, it is actually a lifesaver. Then,
yes. Now let's see what all the network level changes we have planned or we have implemented over there. So yeah, here you can see that multiple AWS we have. That is for each environment. So one AWS environment is for dev, test, ACC, prod, like that. And in between that, while replacing that site-to-site VPN, we can easily introduce AWS Direct Connect. Of course, there's a cost involved, but by accepting that factor, we are planned to go ahead with AWS Direct Connect. And yeah, and also to save cost, we have adopted the famous hub and spoke network model approach. So that will definitely help us to reduce the cost by, we have made the direct connect to the one of the AWS account, and that acts as the hub over there. And from this hub, each environment specific AWS accounts that has been connected to the main hub AWS account via the virtual private gateway. So and it can communicate smoothly with reduced cost.
yes. So now, whenever we are talking about migration, a most curious part is on the data, how we handle the data, how we handle the data migration. So in this case, in this particular use case, the customer data were there in AWS only in S3 and DynamoDB tables, and majority chunk of the data is reside in their on-prem. So they are heavily dependent on the on-prem infra that they are running, and the majority of the user data is there. So only portion of data is getting shipped to AWS that the third party or suppliers want to make use of. Only that data is getting shipped to this particular AWS. So when came to data migration, in our initial planning, we sat down with the application team to understand how exactly this data is being consumed, how exactly they are shipping this data from on-prem to the AWS infrastructure. So we sat down with the application team and understood the flow. And for the S3 bucket, there were several buckets, and out of which only one bucket they will be adding everyday new images. So whenever they're making some changes to their product, whenever they're adding new products to their portfolio, there will be new images. So that is getting those images related to those being added to this S3 bucket every day. And the other thing, the other buckets, every day they are actually replacing the files. So there will be sales margin, there will be other information, so they'll be just overwriting it. And then when came to the migration part, how we approach the S3 buckets, we did two things. One, we improved the pipeline. The customer is executing a pipeline to fetch the information from their local and feeding that to the AWS S3 buckets. So we made some changes to the pipeline in a way that whenever they are actually executing, the data will be deployed to both the regions at the same time. And for the bucket that we talked about, that is storing the images, we did an S3 copy from this region to that the region in Madrid. So we did an initial S3 copy. So next day onwards, the data is there in both the accounts. So the data is synced across the environment, and the S3 part is ready for the cutover. The data is there. So whenever the application want to make use of the data from S3, it is there from the Ireland region also, and from the Madrid region also. And for the S3, for the DynamoDB tables, we were so fortunate in that case, I would say, because there is no live write is happening. So the application is not writing something directly to those tables. If it is writing something lively, then we need to enable some live synchronization. So it is going to be more complex than that we thought of. And then how we handle the DynamoDB tables, it is also they are actually using a combination of Lambda and S3. They are actually deploying that to one of the bucket. The needed files will be deployed to one of the S3 buckets, and from there, the put object event is actually triggering and Lambda, and this Lambda will be fetching the data and loading that data information to the DynamoDB tables. So we have already done the changes to the pipeline that is deploying to S3 bucket. So this resolved our case with the DynamoDB table as well. Now, let's take a look on the how we reduce the impact to the software development lifecycle.
Yes. So in order to make a smooth rollout of these changes, we definitely we need to coordinate the development teams, and we have done that. So we understood their timelines and their plan, all those things, and we have made we are using pipelines in order for the deployments. So we have modified that pipeline and made the changes, like the newer components and the testing are happening only on the new infrastructure which we have created in Spain, not on Ireland. And also for some other pipelines, we have modified them to keep the changes pushed both to the both infra at the same time, so that we can ensure that what all we have in Ireland is also getting happening on AWS Spain as well. And so all these things help us to ensure online release and hotfix deployment to the production environment.
Yes. So now let's take a quick look on how we handle the third party. So from the beginning we were talking about the third parties and how we handle those. So let's take a look on how we handle it. So in the previous infra, there is actually a single FQDN like API.customer.es. So every vendor were making use of this FQDN to interact with the AWS system. So what we have done, we sat down with the application team and product owners to understand how these APIs are getting consumed by the third parties. And we just grouped these APIs in based on two rules. One, how this is being, or for what purpose this API is getting consumed, whether it is able to access the cart or other data. And the other thing, who is controlling the configuration. So whether customer is controlling the configuration or it is the third party vendor. For a platform like Salesforce, it will be customer. So it is a SaaS platform, whether you need to log in and you need to change the URLs and everything. So customer had a control over there. But for the other thing, that for the order management system and all, it is the vendor itself is managing the configuration. So we have grouped these APIs in a way and decided to deploy multiple API gateway endpoints over there. So that a new API gateway will be there, and whenever the customer feels, whenever the vendors are ready, they can simply cut over to this or stop using the previous one and start using with the new API endpoints. So that is a change over there. And we have done, so like I mentioned, wherever the customer had direct control over the configuration, we sat down with the customer team, okay? So now, and through a call, we asked them to make the changes, and we have monitored the logs, flows, traces, and ensured that the cutover is smooth. And for the third party, as they were, they were totally free to make the changes in their infrastructure, and we have done all the service, migration is done, everything is provisioned, data is being synced. So whenever they are ready, they are they are good to go with their change. But we specifically asked them to coordinate with us, because whenever they're making changes, we wanted to verify the logs, we wanted to ensure that nothing has been broken. So we sat down with them for doing the cutover based on their pace, and whenever they are ready, we help them to do the cutover and pointing the configuration to the new infra. And we have done the validation service based on the logs, flows, and everything. And then, just before the final cleanup, what we have done, we deleted the previous API.customer.es. We deleted the public DNS for it. Instead of deleting the entire infra, we just deleted the public DNS for it. So that no one will be able to access the infra. And that helped us, we 100% migrated the services to the new region. And then again, thanks to the IAC, in a single click, we were able to destroy everything in the older infra. Now, it's always, it will take much time for building something new, but destroying it is very easy. And with IAC, it is super easy. So, and then we have done the final cleanup like that, and submitted a request to AWS for deleting the accounts that is not in use. And we are now in that cool period. So there is actually a 90-day cool period. If we requested a account deletion, AWS will keep the account for 90 more days. So in case we wanted to retrieve the accounts, we can raise a ticket to the support portal, and we can claim the account, and we can give the needed details, and we can get back the data. So now we are in this freeze, or the cool period of the AWS. The things are actually cleaned up. So now let's take a quick look on the improved infrastructure design that we had after the migration.
Yes. So here we have, as I mentioned, we have separate AWS accounts for each environment. And as Gireesh mentioned, instead of a single API gateway, we have provisioned multiple API gateways for each vendors. And we also introduced the AWS Direct Connect way, direct connect, which can easily connect with the on-premise data center at Spain, Barcelona, to the AWS account in Spain. And yeah, from the AWS hub account, we are connected to the spokes via the virtual private gateway, and the other end is connected to direct connect gateway. So this overall architecture that gives a improved improvements in the latency they had and some other benefits as well. Yeah. Now let's see what are the outcomes we got with this new architecture. So first of all, we could able to reduce the latency we had and ensure a reliable connection over there. And also it improved the user experience. So after this change, the user experience is become very good, that no need to wait for a payment or add to a product to a cart or something like that. So the user experience got improved very much. And also it improves a lot of performance, and yeah, with the addition of few cost.
Yes, so we got an increased AWS bill, I suppose.
Yeah, the customer got a increased bill also for the entire infrastructure, but it's something related with the based on performance. It's a balance between performance and cost.
Yes, the increase that we got is based on the direct connect usage, but that is expected cost, and we in the planning phase itself we agreed that with the customer. So this is what we are trying to solve, and this will be having this much additional cost involved. So they were okay with it because it is under their budget. So that is the reason to reduce. So in order to keeping separate direct connection to individual accounts, that cost more for them. So that is the reason we redesigned the infrastructure and introduced the hub and spoke model, and keep only, as anyway it is the connectivities between on-prem and AWS, so only one connection is needed. So we reduced that by redesigning the network architecture, and then kept things under budget. Okay, so we know this is going to happen, but we handled that with the customer in earlier case. So now let's get a quick look on the comparison, what we have achieved through this migration.
Yeah. So before that, you can see that our latency it was go 5 milliseconds, and after we roll out, which is in green color, yeah, we got a good representation of our latency. We can see the improvements over there.
With the VPN tunnels, as it is over internet, whenever the running application also having some delay in execution, so all those keep on reporting the latency metrics over there. But after we stabilize the connection through the direct connect, I could see still there are some spikes over there, but I'm pretty sure that is not due to the network overheads over there. It's definitely due to the end application that is delay in responding, or it is busy in responding or doing such tasks. So now we have talked a lot. I think weeks of journey we covered in less than 30 minutes. So just do a quick recap on what we have talked and what are the key takeaways from this session. So we have talked about the problems and the challenges, and that led to us a migration from region to region, and how a planning is needed in order to smoothly do things. So we talked about the efficient planning that is needed for every project, and whenever there is a different third parties involved, it is always better to coordinate well with them. So make them also aware about the change that we are going to do. So involve them also in your planning. So all these will be enable you to execute the change very quickly. So there won't be any hindrance post that. And then the challenges, risk that we were able to detect in the early stage itself, that helped us in solving the issues on the go. And the infrastructure as a code policies and standard that we follow, that really helped us in saving a lot of time. So setting a proper infrastructure as a code policies, and do not deviate from it. So normally people used to add water to the milk, like whenever there's an incident going on, they will be simply allowing to touch the infra through the console. That is again in future that is going to lead to a drift. So avoid that. Have a strict policy over there. And then we talked about also finding the right balance between cost and performance. So you need to sit with your customer. You need to make them you need to understand their requirement, and approach provide the best solution that meet their budget also. So we should consider that as well, and how efficiently we need to plan that. We talked about that as well. So with that, we will be opening the Q&A. Yes, DynamoDB table migration, like I mentioned, there is no live write is happening. I told you, right? And all those DynamoDB table content that is consumed by the application, it is getting, every day they will be updating the new set of, it is especially handling the sales margins code. So there will be sales margins. So how much percentage you should give a discount for a product. So how much offers you should apply to your product. So there will be a sales margin. So those informations were kept in this DynamoDB table, and every day it is getting refreshed on every day. A day-to-day basis based on product list, they will be updating the sales margin code. And this sales margin, what it will happen, they are actually uploading to an S3 bucket every day, a fresh content. And that put object, so they're actually uploading a file, that put object will be triggering a Lambda. And this Lambda is picking these data and feeding that to DynamoDB table. So we really didn't perform a DynamoDB table-to-table conversion or migration. Like I mentioned, if there was a live write is happening, then the journey would be this smooth with the DynamoDB tables, because either you need to enable the DynamoDB replications to the other region. Otherwise, there is an option we can enable or execute custom lambdas to synchronize the changes that is happening in live. So that you can do. So if there is a write happening to the live service, then it is a whole different journey. But like I mentioned, in this particular use case, we only had to put the event. So every day it's a new information that is getting processed. There is no specific migration happen for the DynamoDB data. It was already there. No, DynamoDB table migration were pretty straight. Like I mentioned, every day the data is getting rewritten to the S3. So I would say only the changes that we did for the pipeline, only those effort for doing the migration. For the whole migration journey, we have spent some quality time in the planning. So the planning phase were huge for us, like 2 weeks, I would say. And the execution phase, including everything, is 3 to 4 weeks by coordinating with every vendor and everything. So. Yes, for putting the object, so whenever we are uploading a content to S3, there will be an event written registered. So we are making use of that put event, and that put event will be triggering a Lambda.
Okay.
And this Lambda, what this Lambda will be doing, it will be fetching the data from these.
JSON event.
Yes, exactly. So fetching the data from there and loading that to the DynamoDB.
So this is a daily once kind of a frequency?
No, it's not like daily. So they're actually running the DynamoDB thing, I think 2 times in a day. So whatever the changes we did with the pipeline, so it will be deploying to both the regions. So whenever this put object is happening, the DynamoDB table content gets refreshed.
Okay, so basically at the end of the day, the DynamoDB table was getting modified only twice a day. The frequency was much less.
Much lesser, much lesser.
Okay, so you were able to actually do the migration part a bit more easier, kind of way.
Yes,
because I'm facing a similar issue here on my project.
For you, if this live write is happening,
yeah, that is a problem.
If this live write is happening, there are AWS document itself says different ways to do that. So one is enabling the replications and getting rid of the
currently working with DMS kind of.
And then the other thing is you can run a custom Lambda. So detect the change, okay, what is happening to a table or content, and then replicate that to the other region. So that also you can do. If you are good at writing Python code, that is the easy approach.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Cool.
So we thank you all for being with us and keeping us engaging. And we would like to see you all in our booths. And
only after lunch. Okay.
Yes. And we can have more discussions if needed. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Gireesh and Joice, for sharing your experience about the migration from region to region. It was truly inspiring. So let me invite Sarah and Ashwin to gift Gireesh and Joice a token of respect.